The pressure for a new type of religion came from somewhere else. It came from a bubbling up amongst people who were swapping ideas right across the continent. Hello, I'm Ruth Goodman, and today we'll be talking about how religion influenced 16th century people's lives. Religion shaped how people understood the world, guided their daily routines, and affected everything from politics to personal relationships. Not everyone believed the same things, of course. The Tudor period saw huge shifts in belief systems. Most famously, Henry VIII's break from Rome and the Protestant Reformation. Today, we'll look at what this all meant for ordinary people. Religion was deeply important to almost everybody in Tudor Britain. It was the way that you understood the world, the way that you understood yourself and your place in it. And of course, there was the hope of heaven, of a new world to come. People took it enormously seriously. There was no competing belief system. There was just this one way of understanding life and beyond. From the very moment of your birth, you were surrounded by the trappings of religion, surrounded by people who believed it wholeheartedly, and surrounded too by the rituals, the rhythms of life that all fed into a Christian view. But as we all know, the particular flavour of Christianity was to undergo an enormous upheaval during the Tudor period, when as a nation we flip from being Catholic to being Protestant. Of course, it didn't happen like that. Many people moved at different rates, and some people resisted and hung on to the old beliefs. Other people rushed into the new beliefs with enthusiasm. Some people were dragged along, sort of going along with it. For others, it was a spiritual awakening. Everybody's experience of it was different. But there were some basic commonalities. Henry VIII, who sparks, of course, with his divorce from Catherine of Aragon, the change, himself was quite a conservative character. He heard all these new ideas moving around about a reformed religion, and he wasn't too keen on them himself. He actually rather liked sticking with that which he'd known as a child. As a young man, he actually wrote a book in defence of the Catholic religion, and despite his break with Rome, he personally wanted to carry on much the same. He didn't like the Pope being in charge, but he didn't really want very much other change. No. The pressure for a new type of religion came from somewhere else. It came from a bubbling up amongst people who were swapping ideas right across the continent, who were listening to the words of people like Martin Luther and John Calvin, who were hearing what was going on in other places, who were reading texts and going, oh my goodness, what a whole new way of understanding the world. A new sort of spirituality. And a new sort of spirituality that didn't involve priests. And that perhaps is the most fundamental difference between the old Catholic and the new Protestant idea. Within the Catholic world, your route to God was through the clergy. They were your sort of representatives. They were the middlemen that stood and helped you interpret and understand what was going on. They were the conduit through which divinity flowed. In the Protestant world, they don't really count for much. They might be scholars and they might be interesting and they might help you in that sort of way, but the important thing was not a route through the clergy, but you personally, directly speaking to God, and God speaking directly to you. So in order to do that, you needed to read the Bible. Well, that means you've got to be able to read, doesn't it? So one of the things that happens for most of us at this period is a new interest in literacy, a new focus upon learning to read. Because as far as the new reformist thinkers are going, if you can read the words of God for yourself, you won't need the priest. You won't need all that old stuff with its ritual and practices which have fallen away from the pure form of religion. You'll be able to speak directly to God, understand God's word straight from the page. You will be able to have a purer religion. So you have to be able to read. So there is a huge push to educate as many people as possible, including working people, including women, in reading. And as a result, the whole of society becomes more literate, more capable of accessing the Bible, but other forms of literature too. There is a burgeoning new forms of print, of stories, poems, jokes, plays, songs, emerging from printing presses to a new literate population. There's other changes for us ordinary people. In the old Catholic days, imagery was an important way to express your religious feelings, looking upon pictures of saints and the Madonna. And in our houses too. In the Catholic era, there were often imagery all over the place within our homes in one form or another. But with the new Protestant religion, that is all considered suspicious. We're not supposed to worship idols anymore, and anyone who's got that sort of imagery is told to get rid of it. So when you look at a house from a slightly later part of the Tudor era, like this one, with its Elizabethan decoration, there's next to no religious imagery. It's all secular imagery, because people were worried that they shouldn't be looking at religious pictures, that they should have much purer thoughts in their heads, that they shouldn't be worshipping idols, that it was wrong to have saints and Christs and so forth up and about. But there were some forms of religious imagery that were acceptable even to the most strict of the new reformist faith. And they were often taken from the Old Testament. They were things like Adam and Eve, an image that was considered to be acceptable, even if you were really quite Puritan. It wasn't anything to do with saints. It wasn't anything to do with the traditions and rituals of the Catholic Church. This was a story straight out of the Bible, and therefore considered acceptable. Another one that we see quite often in people's houses is the story of the prodigal son, who is welcomed back into the arms of the family. So on many levels, the change in religion is sort of being felt across all levels of society, and what you look at, what you have in your home, the sort of way, whether you can read or not, and of course what's going on in church. The rituals in church are changing, and you do have to attend church. There are fines in place by the end of the period for those who do not. And within the church, you're being given the message of the new religion. In some ways, the basics remain the same for people. You're still expected to go to church on Sunday, and the devout still have a timetable of prayer throughout the day. In the Catholic days, you would follow an old book of hours, perhaps. In the new Protestant era, it's a different set of prayers, but there's still a sort of rhythm that you should have morning prayers and prayers again before you go to bed at night. That there should be a sort of religious punctuation through the day, that there should be a grace before dinner, that you should be thinking of God regularly at intervals through your everyday life. That does not change. It's only the flavour that changes. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Next time, we'll be looking at what people in the 16th century did for work. Don't forget, you can watch all 7 episodes of my Tudor Life series by downloading the HistoryExtra app.